The Serpent's Path. Today I'd like to touch upon the concept of Kundalini. What is Kundalini and how does it create benefit in your life? Now, Kundalini is a form of yoga, specifically a form of meditation that is used through which there is a coiled serpent, or I should say, the source of all life, of your energy, where it starts at the base of the spine. Think of it as a serpent that follows your spine, rising upwards, passing through every chakra, every aspect of who you deemed self to be at that point in time. Kundalini specifically means the upward rising. Lini means energy or force, the upward rising force that we now manually create movement within. And within this movement, we have forms of Kundalini, specifically Kundalini rising and Kundalini awakening. Now, Kundalini rising occurs as the serpent, or as your practice moving forward in the chakras. You move through the chakras with bursts of insights, with realizations that had not been present before. Because within the Kundalini, you stir up all that unused energy from Shakti, or in the chakra system known as the first chakra, the source of your life, your foundation of self. Now, I'd like to go into the 7 stages of a Kundalini awakening, how this rising occurs and how it plays a part in your growth. The activation happens as the serpent stirs with these subtle sensations that begin to arise. You may feel all of these physical changes, not to mention psychological and emotional changes that occur as the Kundalini activates, as awareness is now a conscious happening in your life. And the rising energy, which we just spoke about, as it goes through these chakras, all these amazing new insights upon yourself begin to arise. Third, purification, the emotional release, shadow work. What do we mean by shadow work? When you're in Kundalini, the shadow work is going to be working with your unconscious self, part of your true self. All of the instincts, all of the survival instincts that you've created in order to protect yourself is now being faded away through the purification process. And then integration, where we now put forward practices that we can apply on a daily basis so that our body can keep up with the changes that we're making internally. Because beware, as the Kundalini arises, change will happen within you that you need to be able to keep up with. It's a fast-moving, fast-acting form of yoga that has been proven to create major changes within your body. Fifth, illumination, heightened intuition and clarity. Because as the Kundalini arises, realization becomes a constant. And as this becomes a constant, what you're doing subconsciously is empowering Agna, creating higher states of insight and intuition through providing that clarity that was needed within yourself. You know how sometimes we say wisdom comes from within. The one thing that blocks us tends to be ourselves. Sixth, embodiment. From then on, after these insights are created, living spiritual truth in form, meaning we have now begun to realize the truth of ourselves and of our lives, and how they bring about change within ourselves, as well as the ways that we have now separated these selves in order to create a comfortable life for us before the state of consciousness was available. And now with this, there is a union, meaning the dissolution of ego and the oneness with all. This is attained when you reach the 7th chakra. Within a Kundalini rising, we go through every chakra. The rising has to do with going through every chakra manually, starting from the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, creating heightened well-being, happy living for oneself. However, the Kundalini goes beyond this. It will go to the 4th chakra, where your ego lies. It will go to the 5th chakra, where truth is honed. It will then seep. I specifically use seep because it sneaks like a snake. It seeps into the 6th chakra, where third eye activation naturally occurs, as realization is a constant when practicing this form of meditation. And the Kundalini awakening has to do with the simultaneous awakening and empowering of all these chakras. Now, this is not something that is manually or regularly practiced, nor is it advised to be practiced on a whim. Take your time and go through these chakras. Understand them for what they are. However, the Kundalini awakening has to do with the simultaneous awakening of all these chakras, creating a new being, manifesting new changes within yourself. You will be a new person. You will feel like a completely different person, like you're now in sync with all that is, without ego, without personal emotional reaction to all things that occur within life, as well as now the wisdom and clarity to now be a speaker of life, to be an echo of truth in a world of darkness. You provide an illuminating light because of this surging amount of energy that is racing through you. You need to be ready mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and physically. Why? Because the Kundalini affects all dimensions of who you are. And it is important that we understand those dimensions before bringing change to them. So practices I'd like to enforce or recommend for readiness is breathwork. Sometimes we need to understand first how much air we regulate on a daily basis, because this contributes to many factors, be it anxiety, be it sickness, be it exhaustion, because you're not using enough breath within the day. So we bring understanding to this through breathwork techniques. Things like alternate nostril work, chakra meditation, shadow journaling, which we document every time we go into the Kundalini. So, for example, if you were to go into Kundalini and at some point within your psyche, at which chakra you felt a pause because of fear, guilt, shame, any sort of emotional reaction towards that springing forth of growth, take a moment, and this is where we call shadow journaling an effect. Write down everything that occurred Write down every feeling that arises within you. And then from there on, you do manual chakra work on it. Not necessarily Kundalini. Kundalini can be done. However, if you would like to do it at a more regular pace or at your own pace, I suggest doing single chakra work so that when you go back into Kundalini, you have a higher understanding of this specific block that was prevalent in your life. Surrender-based prayer or a mantra. Why do we use a surrender-based prayer or a mantra? So, in this surrender-based prayer, we bring submission. And submission is necessary when going into a new field, when going into any new practice. A certain level of humility is needed, as it would be going into Kundalini. And the way that you can do this is whatever your personal spiritual path. I'd like you to take a moment and say, I will allow myself to find flow within this chaos. I will allow myself to feel all that is, because it is part of me. I will now accept the journey that must be taken in order for true growth to happen in my life. I will not be afraid for the change that will come. It is part of understanding myself. It is part of growing with myself. It is part of encouraging and enlightening myself. I'd like to bring a story, being my own, of Kundalini. When Kundalini became prevalent in my life, changes started to happen. Psychologically, I began to move forward with this irrefutable flow of energy. All that was to me now became part of me. All the things that I felt, all the things that I was reacting to before, all the things that I was triggered by before, it had now become something of minority, something of understanding due to the compassion that was understood from Kundalini. As the consciousness arose within me, more and more became less of self, less of need for selfish desire. Within that, there was a void. And this is something I attributed from the Theravada, where we practice going into the formless void. When I reached there, all I saw was everything. Everything that was me, everything that is me, and then beyond that. Within that, it became everything. Within that, I realized I never existed. I was part of all that was happening. But to solely state myself as an individual, as an individuality that has to be created, has to be protected, all of these desires faded away with the egoic being. Compassion became my fruit, and wisdom through the practice in Kundalini became my exercise. Hidden truths that were unavailable to me before were now more visible than anything. All that was not to me became visible. things arise within you where you can now see these hidden powers. You can activate these within others now, and you can guide if a choice is given to you, if that choice is available from you. Because after the Kundalini awakens or rises, the choice is up to the individual. Because within that change, as a new person, all of these new decision-making skills are yours. So within that mist of constant adjustment and dissolution of egoic self, there is just you. And that you is the you of pure true intention, without any blocks, without any feelings of shame, guilt, or fear. Anything that may have held you back. All of these things now become simply rocks in the river that you see flow away. They do not take hold and block you anymore. They are still experienced. However, they are not part of you. And the Kundalini makes this vividly clear to you, where you would now be able to decipher negativity from positivity. You will understand vibrations. You will understand all spirituality as you are now taken from self to the spiritual realm, to spiritual enlightenment. The reason why we call Kundalini the Serpent is because within Hindu traditions, as well as other spiritual sects, the serpent is used as a symbol of truth. Why? Because a snake deciphers based upon sound, based upon frequency. It does not speak in words, nor does it react. It reacts to sound. It reacts to the truth. So why we use that serpent is specifically due to truth seeking. And the Kundalini is seen as the uprising movement of this serpent, meaning we provide truths for every dimension of life as you know it, of life as you've seen it, of life as you've experienced it. Beware every block that you've ever made, be it consciously or subconsciously or unconsciously. The Kundalini will erase. The Kundalini will make it lucid so that all that was hidden, all that was unconsciously hidden, for whatever reason, all of these things are now made a happening in your life. So, if you want to take a paced approach to your growth, pursue chakra meditation or mindfulness as you slowly develop from well-being to spiritual growth. However, for those that would like to try Kundalini, for those who can work through these heavily affected situations, then pursue Kundalini. If you're looking for rapid change and growth within your life and are willing to accept all that changes with it, then I say you pursue Kundalini rising or awakening. Rising goes through the chakras at a regulated pace, and awakening, all of them awaken simultaneously through your efforts of focused chakra meditation upon all. Let Kundalini be a friend in your growth. Don't be afraid. Don't feel ashamed. Allow it to be a happening within your life. If it is truly what is needed for you, if it is truly what you feel needs to happen within your life. This is your Formless Guide, signing off.